Hello learners, welcome to BEDS 002 week 11. In this week we will be doing part 2 parts. The first part is identification of values and process of value development. You have been learning value education for the past 10 weeks and I know that you would be knowing a lot about value education and value development. What are the values which are acquired through family, what are the values which are acquired through school, then also neighbors and community. However, I find it very important to keep polishing and refreshing what values are, because when we keep polishing and refreshing our values, we get to know that okay, these are the values which have been inculcated in me, and it may have been suppressed, or it must have been lying low. So it is always good to refresh our values. It is always good to learn more values, or in terms of the values that which has been inculcated by our family, by the school, by the community, by the neighborhood. It is always good to polish our values and also keep refreshing these values. So in today's lecture, this is what we are going to do: identification of values and process of value development. We have seen that there is rapid scientific growth and technological advancements which have resulted in industrialization. This fast development has threatened our age-old value structures and moral standards. At the global level, this has created value crisis. Disputes over petty matters, road rages, dacoits, murder, agitation, stabbing and so many other crimes have become rampant in society. So this has made value education more and more important. I know that in your household, at home and in school, in office, your family members would be teaching you values, and you in fact are also teaching values to the other members of the society. However, it is always good to keep in tune what morals are, because at times we may forget, at times we may we live in a chaotic world, which is why sometimes the values which have been inculcated may have been lying low or would have been suppressed. So it is always good to keep in tune with what moral values are, in terms of what are the good behavior which are accepted by the society and what are the behavior which are not accepted by the society. We have to keep up with what is the moral standards which are accepted in the society. There have been numerous reports of crimes in the newspapers, magazines and media. Even our entertainment is full of violence and glamorization of criminals. Entertainment in terms of the TV serials you watch, or the movies you watch, or the mobile that you see, the mobile that you carry. There are so many games which glorifies violence. And this atmosphere of valuelessness is leading to disintegration of the society and also affecting our families. It is the right time, therefore, for us to rise to action and make conscious efforts to arrest the trend and lead the families in the right direction. It is never too late. You can start now. I know that a lot of you would have started a long time back, but it is always good to, like I said, to keep learning values, inculcated values and practicing values every day, so that you do not forget it and you live according to the moral standards accepted by the society. Furthermore, everybody expressed great concern over the general deterioration of behavioral standards and patterns of the people. A majority of the systems and structures have been affected by the deterioration of the society, the deterioration of the values of the society. So many value systems have deteriorated and there has been distortion of values. The individual as a member of the group system or structure may be held responsible for some of them from one point of view. So, when we talk about the breakdown of the moral standards, when we talk about distortion of values, when we talk about deterioration of values, individuals may be held responsible by certain people. These people's opinion is that individuals are responsible for the breakdown of moral standards. From another point of view, the individual is thought to be or seen to be helpless about the situation. Therefore, one has to think seriously to find the root causes of this behavioral distortion and deterioration. So, when we talk about the society values deteriorating or distortion of values, there are two points of views. One is individuals being held responsible for it. The other point of view is individuals are not responsible, they are helpless about this particular situation, that is the distortion of values. However, the bottom line is, the main theme is what is significant is, what is important is, the blame should not be the individual, or we should not blame anyone, but we should be able to find what are the root causes of these deterioration and change our attitudes, beliefs, ideals and standards. And also one can bring up the moral standards, how we live in the society, what the society says is good or right. We can bring up the moral standards by inculcating moral values, spiritual values in each of us. So, when we are talking about values, when we are talking about rising the standards of values, when we are talking about inculcating of values, we have to identify these values. How do we identify these values? Identification of values is important, and we have been talking about, and you would be knowing already that family is the first school of learning, and family as the first institution of education enables its members to inculcate skills, attitudes and values. The daily interaction within the family members forms habits which are conducive to the all-round development of personality. Therefore, each family carefully identifies skills and values to be acquired by the family members. So, when we are talking about family as the first school of learning, we have been discussing about how the family is important, because it is from the family that the child or the children learn what are the values which are regarded as right, as good by the society. So, it is very important that the family inculcates the right values in children or in the child. In a democratic society, values are drawn from national goals, universal perception and ethical consideration. Our national goals are reflected in the preamble of the Indian Constitution. The beauty of our country is that it is a democratic country. It is a country which accepts people from all religious backgrounds. There is no differentiation on the basis of caste, creed, color. So, the beauty of our country is the democratic values, and these values or these goals are reflected in the preamble of the Indian Constitution. What does our Indian Constitution, the preamble of the Indian Constitution states? It states, "We the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic and political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the nations." Our country, I'm very proud to say that our country India has all these democratic goals. It has all this democratic rights given to people in terms of equality, in terms of liberty, in terms of fraternity, and also in terms of social justice. And like I said, everyone is treated equal in the eye of law, irrespective of whether he or she is rich, poor, irrespective of whether he belongs to a high caste, low caste, or irrespective of whether he is from the north, east, south, or from Western India. So this is the beauty of our constitution, and these are our national goals that the government has always been pursuing, and this is what makes us united as a country. So you may have heard a lot of saying about India as unity in diversity. In spite of our diverse culture, in spite of our diverse religion, diverse caste, beliefs, cuisine, ways of dressing, India is still one united country. Another way by which the identification of values by an individual and family is through a number of factors. So when we talk about identification of values, I have talked about identification of values on a bigger scale, which means these values are our national goals, and they have been identified, they have been laid in the preamble of the Indian Constitution. And then now we are going to talk about the identification of values by an individual and family, which is influenced by a number of factors. What are these factors? Some of these factors are culture, traditions, and environment. These are the factors which influence the identification of values by an individual and family. Values are classified on the basis of human activities such as physical, social, economic, intellectual, moral, aesthetic, cultural, and spiritual. Therefore, there are finite values. Gandhiji advocated two values, truth and non-violence. In many families, cleanliness, truth, hard work, equality, and cooperation are cherished. So when we are talking about values, values are identified on the basis of human activities, physical. In terms, when we talk about physical, it would be it is good to exercise because it keeps your body and mind healthy and active. Then values is on the basis of social, which means that you should be friendly, you should not, you should treat others well, you should be respectful to your elderly, then you should not discriminate on the basis of caste, religion, color. Values on the basis of economic, which this would be, you should be honest in your work, you should not look for profit at the expense of the poor people, and so on and so forth. So these are the various values which are classified on the basis of human values. And in families, we have families stressed on cleanliness, truth, hard work, equality, and cooperation. So in a majority of families, these are the values which are stressed on, and we have just spoken about the very important two values which have been advocated by Gandhiji, which is truth and non-violence. So we have talked about identification of values, we have talked about the values which have been identified in the preamble of the Indian Constitution. Then we have talked about how values are identified in the family, and what are the factors which are factors which influence these values. We have talked about how family influence value, and also we have talked about how important it is for the family to guide the children. And In terms of values being identified, then tradition is also very important. There are various traditions which has been carried on from generation to generation. We have talked about family. Then what are the values which are which has been influenced by tradition? India is a land of many traditions. There have been very beautiful traditions wherein, you know, respecting your guest, Atithi Namao Deva, is a concept which means that you should respect your visitors, and you should respect them. Then we have the tradition of respecting our elderly. All these are traditions. By these tradition values are identify them. Another factor which helps us identify value is environment. Environment in terms of your surroundings, like your neighbors, it could be your community where you live. If you have a good community, if you have a good neighbor, then in the values inculcated by them to you, or the values you learn from them, would lead to an overall development of your personality. You would grow up to be a person of values. For example, the neighborhood would, let's say, they organize a cleanliness drive, they organize a campaign to collect materials, food items for the downtrodden. The community can organize a blood camp. All these would instill a community feeling, it would instill a social service feeling in you. So when we talk about identification of values, family, the traditions, the environment is very important. Now let me move on to process of value development. What do you mean by process of value development? What are the process of value development? How does value development takes place? It is very important for parents, because we keep talking about parents because they are the first school of learning, and it is from the parents that the children learn the first values, if I may call it. It is the parents where children learn the initial values. So it is important for parents to know the processes of development: physical, social and moral. Moral values are desirable values in family. According to K.M. Gupta, there are 4 stages of moral development. How does moral develop? And according to K.M. Gupta, there are 4 stages of development. Stage 1, immediate consequences require the attention of parents to make a child aware. This helps them to know the consequences of the behavior. Let's say, for example, a child is playing with his friends and he starts beating another child, or he starts throwing the toy that he's carrying. The immediate reaction of the parent should be to tell the child that it is wrong to beat up another child, throw away the toy, sorry. Or another example could be when the child wastes food which has been given to him. So it is very important that the parents at that very time gives immediate reaction, gives immediate attention to the child, so that the child is aware that his behavior is wrong. So this is stage 1 of value development. What is stage 2 of process development? Stage 2 of process of value development is partial evaluation. A child looks at the incidents from one angle only. Naturally, parents must discuss with the child about the consequences for each child. I gave you the example of how a child may waste food by not eating all the food which has been on the plate. So the child may give a reaction, or the child may look at the incident by saying that I was not hungry, so I did not finish my food. But the parent should say that if you are not hungry, then you should not you should say that you are not hungry, and you should not take so much of food, but you should take little food which you can consume and eat or finish, so that you do not waste your food. So this is how the parents can instill in that child. Then another incident I gave you, where the child is beating up another child. The parents can the child's reaction would be, he would be evaluating from his point of view, that is, his action is beating up the child, and the child will tell the parent or the parents that I have beaten up the child because he was rude to me. Then the parents can tell the child that this is not the reaction that you should have. They should tell the child that physical violence or beating up the child is not a solution. You can complain to the parents of the child, so that the parents of the child who was rude to him can tell that the action is wrong. So when a child is doing something, he feels that he is right from his point of view. However, it is in these occasions that the parents should tell the child that your evaluation is not fully correct. It may be partially correct, but it is not the solution. There are other solutions to the problem. You do not need to be physically violent. You can complain to the parents of the child who was rude to you, or you can tell the child who has wasted his food, saying that if you are not hungry, do not take so much of food. Or you can tell the child that if you are not hungry, if you are already full, you should just refuse food at this time, so that the food is not wasted. So these are the various ways by which parents can discuss about the consequences of the child's action from each side. Then we have stage 3, which is called full evaluation. A child provides reasoning for his behavior in an accident. Naturally, parents have to guide him or her to come close to reality. So full evaluation, it means when the child is growing up, when the child is becoming more and more mature, and his reasoning, he would give a reasoning which may at times be, he may be just giving justification for his behavior. He may be giving giving justification for a certain behavior that he feels it is right. But it is at this point of time when parents feels that the justification for his behavior may not always be right, and the parents at this time, this is stage 3, when the child is becoming older, more and more mature, the parents have to guide him or her to come close to. Then we have stage 4, which is generalized comments. A child requires feedback from the parent to work for the welfare of the family and society. The children are usually always under the influence of peers in the company. The parental authority is almost absent in the presence of peer. Therefore, children require suggestions from the parents to overcome peer pressure to maintain family values. So, when the child is growing up, especially when the child is in the adolescent stage, I have talked about peer pressure, wherein the child has to fit in with his peer group. He wants to be within the it crowd. He wants, or she wants to be fitting in with the popular group. So, at times, to fit in with the peer group, the child may reflect certain behavior which is wrong. The child might rebel, the child may smoke, the child may get into drug habits. So, this is the time when the parents have to step in, and the parents have to help the child to overcome peer pressure, telling the child that whatever pressure you have, you should not succumb to this pressure, because the pressure is not right for you. So this is the time when the parents have to come through for the child. Then talking about the Importance of parents. Parents' involvement in value education begins, like I said, long before the schooling of the child, and hence the home becomes one of the main agencies to be involved. No human being is born with set of values. Initially, values are transmitted by the parents, grandparent, other close relatives whom the child would interact with. These values are usually such that they prepare a child to be accepted in society, learning to put things in an orderly manner, greeting the elders, respecting time by following time schedules, restraining from simple acts of violence like throwing objects, destroying property, which are perhaps some of the initial beginnings of value education. So, when we talk about parents, like I said, parents are the ones who have to come through to help the child or the children to overcome peer pressure. They are the ones who have to step in the initial, from the initial stage, by telling the children that certain behavior is wrong. When you stop the child at the initial stage, for example, beating up another person or throwing object, they would have these values for life. They would know that these are the action which they have done is wrong, so they would not repeat it in future. Most of the values are those which have been imbibed by the family from the society. Somewhere during the mid or late adolescence, the individual begins to question these values. He or she participate in life's experiences. All values are judged and reshaped to form new values. Certain values are discarded and others become integrated into the self. As the child grows, he or she begins to practice the values learned in early childhood. We have talked about the stages according to K.M. Gupta. Now let us talk about the stages of value development according to Kohlberg. Kohlberg says there are certain stages of value development. The first is the pre-conventional stage, which is usually from age 0 to 7, and this conventional stage is when the child says, I do so because my parents say so, or because by doing so it will give me appreciation or certain rewards. Then we have the conventional stage, which is between the age to 10, where the child says, because you will like me better, so I will do it, I am doing it, and because it is the law and I have to do it. So this is the conventional stage when the child says, I do it because you would like me better, my peers would like me better, my parents will like me better, my teachers would like me better, because it is the law and I have to do it. So this is the conventional stage, which is between the age 7 to 10. Then we have the post-conventional stage, which is 18 plus. Because I'm doing it so because of justice, because justice requires it, and because it is good for humanity. When we talk about value development, there are so many examples of value development. We have what is work ethics in terms of punctuality, sincerity, responsibility, humility and pride. Then we have what is called honesty in terms of in words and deeds. You do not tell lies, you do not resort to dishonest deeds to earn money. Then there is another ethic which is social justice, wherein social justice is respecting all human beings, whether it is your driver, the gardener or your domestic help. Then also in terms of teaching children certain aspect of gender issue, telling not differentiating between a boy or a girl, giving equal education to both the boy and the girl, and irrespective of whether the child is a boy or a girl, the child must be brought up to accept the that responsibilities are to be shared and not divided on the basis of parents have a very important role in inculcating these ethics, whether it is work ethics in terms of being punctual, sincere, and to fulfill the responsibility, in terms of gender issue, not to differentiate between a boy or a girl, and telling the children that responsibility should be shared, in terms of social justice, to treat everyone equally, and also in terms of orderliness and cleanliness, where the parents should encourage the children or the child to keep the surroundings clean, and also to keep his or her room or the house clean. So, in today's session, dear learners, we have talked about identification of values, and we have talked about the process of value development. I have talked about the stages of value development according to K.M. Gupta and Kohlberg. Thank you so much for listening.